As the crisis in Ukraine deepens, it's important to consider what the actual consequences of war there might be. Right now, U.S. officials estimate the fighting could kill up to 50,000 civilians, 25,000 Ukrainian military personnel, and 10,000 Russian soldiers. These figures are based on the assumption only conventional weapons are used. However, with so much unknown about what happens next, echoes of the Cold War are causing some to think about the unthinkable and Russia's massive nuclear arsenal. Correspondent Evan Lambert is live in D.C. Evan, you spoke with a nuclear expert today. What did he have to say about the possibility, we hate to say it, but a possibility of a nuclear war?
Nichole, these growing tensions really bringing people back to the Cold War era, a time when people hid under desks for nuclear drills. That expert saying we are not there yet, but Russia clearly trying to remind the world of its nuclear might.
Russia has nuclear weapons pretty much at every rung of the capability ladder.
As the conflict between Russia and Ukraine threatens to destabilize Europe, experts say it's not outside the realm of reality to wonder if war could involve Russia's use of nuclear weapons. Under normal circumstances, says former National Security Council official John Wolfstall, it would be unlikely. But
these are not normal circumstances, and the greatest risk of the use of a nuclear weapon comes from a smaller conflict escalating quickly in the fog of war, when countries are using cyber attacks, when they're trying to degrade each other's conventional capabilities, which also support nuclear capabilities.
Russia reminding the world of its nuclear arsenal over the weekend, with nuclear weapons tests overseen by Russian President Vladimir Putin himself. According to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia leads the world with 6,200 nuclear weapons, the U.S. having 5,600. The weapons of mass destruction capable of killing hundreds of thousands of people at once. On Friday, President Biden batted down Putin's nuclear tests.
I don't think he is remotely contemplating using nuclear weapons.
And in January, Russia was among 5 nuclear powers, including the U.S., making a joint statement saying a nuclear war, quote, must never be fought. Wolfstall telling NewsNation when it comes to nukes, he expects Putin to be rational.
There's no evidence to suggest that he's suicidal or is eager to initiate the use of nuclear weapons. That doesn't mean things can't get out of control.
And in a rambling speech yesterday, he alleged that Ukraine would try to acquire nuclear weapons. Experts say that is false. Ukraine giving up those weapons in 1994, part of an agreement that Russia would respect its borders and its sovereignty. Obviously, that is not happening.
Yeah, we certainly do not want to think of nuclear war. All right, Evan, thank you. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.